Please put your right hand on your hand and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Please sit.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Abinaga. Madam Recording Secretary, can you please take roll call?
Vice Chair Aguinaga,
Present.
Commissioner Calderon,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Perez,
Present.
Chair Santana,
Present.
Commissioner Tardif,
Present.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Present.
Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
Thank you. You have quorum. And for the record, Commissioner Garcia will not be able to attend today.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Seeing a quorum, this means officially called to order. This is time for the Commission to consider the matters under the consent calendar, items including 1 through 4. Do any members have any corrections to the minutes, the items they wish to pull for separate discussion or abstain on?
I think I may have a question, so I don't know whether that's appropriate to ask.
You could go ahead and ask your question, Mr. Frazier.
The staff member comments, when you were giving us the update, when Judson was giving us the update, that's the status of the multifamily affordable housing projects. I got to looking at that, and I'm just curious, the Aqua Housing in Huntington Plaza, it says that they're 2% complete, and I'm just trying to clarify that in my mind, what that looks like, and I'm having trouble.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Frazier. The 2% complete is the assessment by our senior residential construction specialist who monitors and oversees the construction of those two projects on behalf of the city. And that was the report that he provided most recently on the date. On the date I provided those staff member comments.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to consider items 1 through 4?
I move.
Okay, so makes a motion, get a second.
I second.
Second, Mr.
Turner.
Mr. Perez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Well, item passes, thank you. Moving on to business calendar.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the approval by the Commission for the consent calendar items. If I may bring your attention to a new staff introduction item that was just prior to that on the agenda.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
No problem. So if I may,
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So our staff I have the privilege to introduce our new our new residential construction specialist, Ms. Maricela Marquez. I'd like to invite Ms. Marquez up to the podium to introduce herself and talk about her background with the Commission. We underwent a very thorough lengthy and thorough recruitment process. It does take quite a long time to complete recruitments, and we were excited when Maricela accepted the position and joined our team about a month and a half ago. And I'd like to hand the podium over to Maricela.
Good evening, Commissioners. Let me begin by saying how happy I am to meet you today. My name is Maricela Marquez. I come to you from the city of Rosemead with 12 years of housing experience, working with programs such as home improvement, first-time home buyer, and CDBG grants. Previous to that experience, I worked in the private sector as a housing consultant with various cities. And fast forward to today, I'm really excited to be of service to the city of Santa Ana, and I'm really looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Maricela will be responsible to administer our single-family rehabilitation, mobile home rehabilitation, and historic home rehabilitation programs. The funding we provide for those programs comes from our Community Development Block Grant Program and our Home Investment Partnerships Program. She brings over a decade of experience already administering these programs, and we really look forward to a very long and rewarding working relationship with Maricela. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Welcome, Maricela. Welcome to our family.
Thank you, Mr. Judson. Moving on to business calendars. We will now consider matters under the business calendar. The first item on the business calendar is item number 5, Downtown Center Business Improvement District 2020 Assessment Report and Budget. Will staff please report on this matter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to invite our downtown business associations to the podium to present on this item. We are excited to bring this item to you. It is an annual item, an annual requirement in our bylaws for the approval of the CRHC. And who would like to start? It's always one of the funnest items of the year.
Good evening. How are you? My name is Raul Yanez, president of Santana Business Council.
My name is Sam Romero. I'm the Vice President of Santa Business Council.
Hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Arellanes, Secretary for Santana Business Council.
I'm Madeline, and I'm a downtown bid manager with Santa Ana Business Council.
My name is Jose Romo. I'm here representing Ryan Chase, president of Downtown Inc., who was not able to make the meeting. I'm a consultant for Downtown Inc.
We prepared a quick presentation for you to give you a little overview of the work that we do in downtown. And I started with a timeline for you to see, because essentially 2013 is about the time that we changed in downtown from being a P-bid to a bid, which is a business improvement district before it was a property-based one. So I just wanted to show you that in the past 5 years, we're about to do a 5-year annual report. And starting with 2014-15, there's the bid formation, and our boards were forming. And then we have the year of resolution and reconciliation. The downtown was pretty fragmented at that time. And what happened is we decided to come together and work together. And so there was a year of partnership about the 3rd year in. And then we started to develop a sense of community in 2007, 2018 with shared projects and working conjunctly. And then this year has been really about opportunity building and starting to build up our businesses in downtown. So it's taken a lot of work to get from there to here, and it's been awesome, but I'm going to show you a little bit about that. This is a picture of the Santa Ana Business Council board. There's about 11 members. There's one honorary member who's not in the picture right there. And we meet on a regular every 3rd Friday of the month. The other board meets quarterly. Is that correct? Okay. This is a picture of the other boards meeting. This is Downtown Inc. And they just had their meeting this morning, as a matter of fact. And we still don't have a full picture of the whole group, but we'd like to have that. But this is a picture of the clean and safe team. And these are the folks that clean about 80 blocks. Is that correct? Jose Romo is in charge of this team of people who clean our whole downtown, and they power wash our streets on a regular basis every single day, 365 days a year. I just made a very quick graphic to show, and this is an estimated amount. When you take, it's about $900,000 in all. It's $400 for our bids, and the rest is our clean and safe team. And what happens is the city, through the taxes that come in and through parking revenues, those are distributed into the downtown bid groups and to the clean and safe team. What ends up happening is that money gets redistributed back into the community, in the businesses, through marketing, programming, promotions, as well as through maintenance, safety that's provided by security, and the downtown clean and safe team. And I actually did a little breakdown so you could see, if you just took that money and there's about 796 businesses in our downtown, about 133 sectors. In that amount, if you broke it down and you took the 900,000 into the 796, you would find that it's about $1,130.65 per business per year, and the clean and safe annual cost at about $600 per business per year. 365 days a year is about $1.64 per day for clean and safe, with 15 employees working, and the bid fee is around 530. 365 days a year is about $145 per day. So if you look at it, it's about $309 per day for our businesses in total services. That's less than the cup of a cost of latte for a downtown to be cleaned, to be safe, to be programmed, to have marketing, to have programming, and all of the things we do, which I'm going to show you more. This is just a graphic that shows a downtown filled with small businesses that are selling each of their individual products. And what we have in our groups, we have our organizational development, meaning our boards, which are made up in all about 35 people who are from all different sectors in downtown that help us to understand better about those sectors, like restaurant leaders, folks who are in property ownership, people who are in real estate or in even legal, that are in our groups that help us to know more about those sectors. So we are able to do better sector development, which is one of the first things that we started doing in downtown. We have Art Walk 12 times a year, regular programming, and it's one of the heartbeats of downtown, and it's kept it going and kept it activated on a regular basis. Then we have the internal and external communications, which we have a weekly newsletter that comes out of Downtown Inc., and we have a quarterly bid report that comes out, and we go and outreach to neighborhoods throughout the 64 neighborhoods we work with Comlink. We also do lots of marketing, and we do larger events regularly. So what you see is, and another thing is, when we do these events, we've been able, in that year of partnerships, to develop amazing partnerships with organizations like the Segerstroms for the Art, for the Bowers Museum, lots of organizations, which we brought in about 250 in-kind donations from those organizations, working together with us in collaboration to create a lot of events, which adds to and creates goodwill and begins to build community on all different fronts. And what ends up happening is then the district circulation changes because of all of the work that we're doing. More people are coming into downtown. There's a rise in purchasing power from locals and visitors, and we're able to take that revenue and it goes back into the city of Santa Ana. So this is the last graphic showing how that's then given back to the city. So some of the questions that we have to ask while we're in this process of working through all these things in downtown is, we needed to know who makes up the downtown community that we serve. How do we actually activate underutilized spaces and bring a sense of community and vibrancy to the downtown? How do we work with our businesses and local government to create a sense of place and beautify the downtown? How do we continue to build up our sectors, social networks, and foster growth of entrepreneurship and educational pipelines in our downtown? And how do we better market our downtown across demographic groups and make sure that the attention is being given equally to the whole? And how do we also build our resources for downtown so we can do more? So I'm going to show you how we actually have done this. The first thing that we needed to do was called a 796 campaign. And I'm just going to keep going through these, and it's going to go through and show you where each of these things fall into place. So the 796 campaign was when we got a list of all of our businesses in downtown, we went door to door. And we weren't going to be able to do this all the time. It took us about 3 weeks, and we found out, we did a small survey with all of our businesses, found out updated names to find out who's actually in those stores and businesses, and what do they need. One of the biggest findings, these are a small example of some of the businesses that we're seeing moving into our downtown, which is a young population of merchants that are actually coming in, where some of the older population of merchants are now leaving that have been here since the 80s. So these are just some examples. These are three cousins who, if you've gone to Cafe Cultura, this is Elite Fitness, this is American Barbershop. These gentlemen who've created Suavecito actually have a national and international brand. This is the kind of thing that really builds an economy, and it's amazing because it's a product that actually is used heavily here in the US, but also now in Taiwan and other places. And then we have, these are some of our other merchants. We have our retailers, we have our lawyers, we have our insurance people, we have also arts, restaurants, legal, insurance, travel, dentistry, entertainment. Those are what make up those 133 sectors. Okay, so one of the things that we notice is there's certain parts of downtown that there's no activation. For some reason, people just don't walk on those streets. And and people are scared at night, so they don't circulate in those areas. So one of the things that we figured out in one specific area is we brought all the business owners and also the county government, the city government, and the federal government together, because that area is broken up into those three different groups. In order for us to better understand how we could make that space better, we needed to know from all of them how we could work together. So this example is they did a place game. Everybody walked the streets in this area, looked at it, created forms, and decided, like, this is how we could better do this area. And some of the things they said is it's very dark. They also said that, they said things like there's not enough plants, or they said that there's not good places for seating, there's not activation. So these are the kind of little micro things that we're constantly working on downtown to beautify and make it more accessible. This is the specific area that this place game took place, and this is what happened. These were the first few things that we thought, okay, we can target these right away and we could fix them out of the large list. So we began working on lighting, plants, public seating, and regular programming in those areas. One of the things that we started to do in the West End is we brought a children's business fair. That part is usually only activated once a year by a Noche de Altares event, and it's an amazing event that brings over 40,000 people into our downtown. But at this time, most of the time, nobody goes there during Art Walk. They don't go there at any other time, so a lot of those businesses suffer and they end up going out of business. So we started working here to try this out. We started piloting, and we had to get the okay from the federal government because it's their walk, etc. And we started doing all these different events to do that. We also started having these Santa Ana Sundays to get more of that, the Artist Village activated as well. And to be honest with you, this project, that first, like for that first 6 months or something, it didn't catch on. We noticed we were doing it, but it didn't catch on. And one of the things that Ryan from Downtown Inc. said, he's like, look, how about if we start on a night that's already busy, let's complete the process of activating the whole area and then build out from there. So we took on a new project, and they said, help us to get the whole downtown active during Art Walk. So SABC joined with them, and we started to activate all the areas that you see like in green, and the alleys, starting to do the alleys during Art Walk. And now we have, this is our regular Art Walk, which has been going on for 20 years in downtown. So it has a great audience already. And as we continued, we started a Dancing in the Streets program on the other side of town. Now there's thousands of people that are coming out there to dance every first Saturday. So it's become extremely active. We have this alleyways that are now becoming activated as well, and there's galleries in the alleys and everything. We also have something that just popped up, which is a witch walk, which actually has taken off, and it's doing exactly what the first Saturday Art Walk used to do, only on a third Saturday, which means that businesses now have more opportunity to make money on other days than just the first Saturday. We have a cumbia night that we ran a pilot on. It worked amazingly. People want to dance in our downtown, so we're starting to do more activation of dancing. We have things happening during seasonal times. We didn't have Christmas tree or any of the lighting in downtown when we first started. It was the first time they put a Christmas tree back downtown. They had plazas navideñas. We've been working on them to put lights up at Christmas. There's not a place to actually purchase a Christmas tree. You don't see these holiday seasonal things you might see in the Orange Circle or something like that, because there was nobody managing and doing that. So some of these things we're starting to build. There's Sundays, there's Loteria, which is a game of chance that's played regularly to keep things going all throughout the week. We have clowns and painting so that we're also getting mixed demographics of children. We want all ages. We don't want just a young audience coming out at night. We want people who are elders, we want children, we want whole families. So we're really working on that aspect as well. We've been able to do pipeline projects with schools. So we've actually brought students from SAC, students from Santa Ana High School. They all are in a fashion design program, work with the downtown businesses, and put on a fashion show to show what they're creating, how they can go into the future of the fashion industry, and be able to showcase right here. We also have now pop-up concerts that are coming in. Because of a marketing campaign where we brought in what's the group is Lieberman Group, which has been doing a marketing so that we can make sure that we're getting cross-marketing to all our audiences. Now all these different groups want to come in and showcase Univision, Telemundo, all these different groups are coming in now and they want to do things. This is a alternative bazaar, so this is activations again on other days other than Art Walk. And then there's the professional development. So most people, when they think of a booster for businesses, they obviously think of professional development. Some of the professional development that has been really going on, when I said this year has been targeting, is working with different groups. This is a group of all of our bridal association, trying to work together to figure out something that we can do as a unit so we can really take and target that sector and make sure that it's seen and make it rise to the top. These are our restaurant association meetings. We just had one of our biggest events, Savor Santa Ana, where over 40 restaurants displayed their foods. It's a regional event. People came from all over the region to try out the food. And it's an amazing time for people to taste for a very inexpensive amount and see what's great about downtown. This is a professional internship program, and it was the first group, when we did that 796 campaign, it's the first group of 10 businesses that got linked with career and technical education students to help them, because we saw that 10% of our businesses needed help with social media, marketing, Yelp, etc. So those kids were coming in with these 10 groups as a pilot to start it out and see if we could do that, and that they could help them get onto social media and work with them.
Was that done last year?
Yes. I mean, it was 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
This is a group that graduated. They were in a 6-week program for food, and they all got their certificates after learning with the SBDC OC, and that's what this group is. It's a graduate group, so there's people learning to cook downtown. There's people incubating in the kitchens at the Food Centricity incubators, which is amazing. This is a women's empowerment network where women in business and women also working with women in life. And this just started. It's called Amiga Social Club, and this is our very first launch. So you can see there's tons of women here that are excited about empowering each other and getting their career development working. This is us working with a program with students. It's out of SAUSD, and it's called Circulos, and it's a school without walls, so kids get to actually come down. Right now we're working on a project for them to work on our alleys. It floods there every year when it rains, and we're going to look at greening alleys. They're going to work with an architecture firm downtown, and they're actually going to come together with that architecture firm and figure out how to make those greenways through a life science credit. This is a group that's working with on our literary festival. We have over 23 schools that have gotten involved in a lit fest that we have, which is the premier lit fest that's free to people throughout Orange County, which we created ourselves in downtown Santa Ana. So that's a regional event where people come from all over, 100 authors, over 500 students perform in our downtown, and over 2,500 parents are coming out to actually be a part of that, and they're getting to see all the visual and performing arts throughout the school district. This is another group that we just also got into Poetry Out Loud, which means that our kids can compete on a national and international level, bring home $20,000 if they win for reciting a poem. This is an art mixer that just shows we have a huge artist community, and it's one of the very first sectors, which I'm going to show you in a minute, that we've actually organized. This is our business mixers that happen regularly as well, and we also have an annual meeting to bring our businesses together to tell them news. They met the new city manager when she came in, things like that, where they get to learn about downtown, they get to learn about what we're doing, and they get to meet new people that are in the city. These are also neighborhood outreach. This is Santa Anita. They came out to tell us how they wanted their community to come out and be able to interact with our downtown. They wanted to go on a haunted tour of the OC, like the downtown walk, so we connected them with the folks there so that they could bring their whole community down to try out new things. This is actually Wilshire, actually this isn't Wilshire Square. It's Washington Square. And this is us. We give out maps for where to eat in downtown. We give them updates, everything. So we're reaching out to all of our neighborhoods. Then we go out and we do professional, we go to international downtown associations, and we're talking about our city on an outside level in many different places at international downtowns. And we've both been fortunate, Ryan and I, to be able to be leaders in those places and actually give presentations about our city, not only be people just seated at a lecture. And we've also been able to, Ryan just became the head of the USA Network for Placemaking in the whole United States. So he now is working internationally with placemakers all around the world. All of this stuff takes a lot of planning. So these are just a series of things that show the behind the scenes. This is Art Walk meetings. This is the Las Amigas meetings. These are meetings for entertainment for the big street breakfast. We have to also get a lot of volunteer engagement in downtown to be able to come out and help us produce these things. And then there's the work of municipal partnerships. And this is where we're working with the city, the county, the federal government, et cetera, to get things done, because everything requires permitting. And this is like a private lot that wants it activated regularly. We're working with them on a conditional use permit so that he can open up that lot on a regular basis on the same night as Art Walk and other days, so it can be going at the same time. And that's planning and building, talking to them. Then we have vendors that we're incubating. There's over 100 vendors coming down regularly to actually learn how to sell their wares and see what works, see what doesn't. They all get business licenses through the city, and we have to work through that as well. Then we have beautification, and we just got these banners up. It's taken us some time, and it was something that a community engaged group, we were able to celebrate over 40 authors or 40 artists in our downtown, and they hadn't changed these banners for over, I think it was 16 or 17 years. So this is huge. And then the little things, we're trying to add some flowers. These are just being put in now as we speak. They're finishing them. So, and this is all down that same street that we were looking at the lighting, the plants, et cetera. And then just to show you really quickly, this is the very last thing on this thing, is that there's one sector that we've fully organized. It took us quite a long time, and it is our art sector. We were able to create a registry with now over 250 artists, because institutions like Segerstrom's, Bowers, et cetera, were like, we want to hire local, but we don't know how to get to the people. By creating this registry, we now have all of our artists in here. If you want somebody to do anything from creating a sculpture, which we just had something from the city. Tramley sent us in, and she said, we need somebody to do a sculpture in another city. I sent that directly to Faruja, who's one of our sculptors in downtown. So she now can go get that job. We have a direct link to all of the artists in our city, which is amazing. All of the students in 18 schools were able to showcase their art for the first time for a whole month in our downtown, which was an amazing accomplishment because students never show down here from SAUSD. We also have, and this is them, they set up the whole thing and they got to showcase. Then we were also able, through this, because of this organization, to have 30 of our local artists represented in their first municipal art show. So we were able to do that. The banners, as I showed you, has another 40 local artists. When we have an organized structure like this, we can do so much in terms of the marketing. That's what we're working on with those bridal associations, with the retail associations, and with all of them. Once we have this kind of a system, we will be able to market this downtown the way that it needs to be marketed and showcase the brilliance of what's happening. The last thing is the dual language marketing. So like I said, a lot of the businesses, a lot of the merchants who don't speak English were like, we don't see enough representation of ourselves in downtown. So we spent this time to bring in folks to actually make sure that they're on television, on radio, on media, and the TV personalities and radio personalities are coming out to downtown so people can see them visibly, and they know that they're now being shown. And these two are just to show these two signature events, which is Boca de Oro, and we just did Savor Santa Ana. And that's the end.
Thank you, Madeline. So you guys are doing great work. Does the commission have any questions for staff?
Yes. Is this a sole source contract?
I'd like to invite Julie Castro Cardenas, our Downtown Development Liaison, to respond to questions from the commission on this item.
Hi.
How you doing, Julie?
Good, good, thank you. Your question was, is this a sole source?
Yes.
It's been my understanding that both organizations, the Downtown Inc. organization as well as the Santa Ana Business Council, were the original organizations in the downtown that were a grassroots organization that formed collectively, and I think that they intersected at some point and then parted at another point. Both represent the business community in the downtown, and so there isn't like a sole source mechanism or an RFP that we've gone through. This is a bid assessment that was grassroots, but I'm fairly new to this position, so I'm not exactly sure if maybe I can lean on Jose to give me, is that accurate? There hasn't been like an RFP or a bid or something that solicits other organizations to lead the charge.
Is there other organizations within the community that could do it?
It's, you know, from what I've gathered, it's business owners in the downtown that come together and organize. And then through those businesses, through both entities, they hire consultants like Madeline and like Ryan Smolar, that's not here, to basically activate or initiate events and lead the charge on different tasks and projects.
Excellent. There was a comment that you guys would have gone door to door. It took about 3 weeks. How long ago was that?
That was actually at the beginning of 2017, middle of 2017.
Okay. And the reason I kind of ask these questions, first as a government entity and sitting on the dais, so to me it's a sole source contract. That means nobody competes with you. And the issue that I have with that is then in a sense, you're always going to get this money. And there's no goals, there's no measured outcomes, there's no mechanisms for us on this commission to see what's happening. Now, believe me, you're doing an awesome job. You're doing an unbelievable job. But with competition, when you have other people come in, it provides those opportunities. I have touched base with some business owners. There's some new ones, some that, have asked, well, I don't know everything that they do. So a recommendation that I would make is to go back and do some more outreach, some one-on-one, specifically with the business owners. I'm going to support this. I believe in the work that you're doing. I need to ask some specific questions into that process. So, and then the other question I kind of alluded to is this collaborative spirit. And I think sometimes what happens when two organizations like yourself receive these funds, you speak for the entire community, and I think sometimes we need to make an understanding that it's not my personal opinion or my belief on a specific issue, because when things go out on social media and you're speaking on behalf of bid and this process, we want to be a little bit more cautious and understand that this is a process, and this, as the commissioners, oversee that process. And I think in general, I've just had some individuals kind of touch base with me and just say, we need to make sure when these individuals are speaking on behalf of these processes to be very collaborative, understand when they speak and they're speaking on behalf of this process, it's a fine line on that communication. Just had a couple of those questions to ask. Thank you.
I'll go next.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Mr. Frazier? Tardif.
Thank you, Chair Santana. I think my question would be for Judson. Could you kind of explain exactly what this commission is being asked to do?
Of course. On October 6th, 2003, City Council appointed the commission, our Community Redevelopment and Housing Commission, as the Downtown Santa Ana Business Improvement District Advisory Board. And so as the bid advisory board, the commission is responsible for making recommendations to the City Council on the expenditure of revenues derived from the levy of the assessments on the downtown businesses. So you, with this action item, you would be first find that the Downtown Santa Ana bid assessment report complies with the California Streets and Highways Code, which authorizes the levy of those assessments. And then second, you would recommend to the City Council to direct the Executive Director of the Community Development Agency to file the 2020 bid assessment report with the Clerk of the Council for City Council approval or modification. And so you are explicitly authorized by the City Council to oversee the bid and the recommendation of the bid to the City Council.
Thank you.
I think it started from Ms. Aguinaga.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you so much for being here. It's nice to see familiar faces. You're doing a great job. I was in the testing Santa Ana, and it's amazing. It's great. I just have a question. That is the two organizations, and I understand in the board of you guys are voluntary, right? Am I right? And then Melanie, you and Brian, do you have a staff? Because it's a lot of work. How many
We have, actually, there's three people in our organization. It's Maricela Vela and Claudia Nafa. She does our communications. Maricela is very huge with PR, with our downtown, as well as multiple other things. So we do, and each time we do specific things, we do reach out to folks to help us with little things. Like, for instance, when I did that fashion show, I found somebody who was in fashion, who was downtown, who could help me coordinate that event. So we reach out to people, and we bring in people to help us for all kinds of things.
Voluntary? Is that what you're talking about?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
So, but you don't have like employees under you?
No, I mean, for instance, we also give out stipends. Usually most things that we do are like under what the $500 or something. So we give out stipends for assistance with all kinds of things, or people get paid if they are doing an entertainment. I mean, different people. Like, we bring in Luis Aragon to do he does the DJing for the Dancing in the Streets. And he gets about $400 per time. That's how much he gets paid to actually enact this program, which is amazing for us in downtown. So we bring in a lot of people to help.
Well, you guys doing an amazing job. It's awesome how Santa Ana has been changing. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Sara. Any other commissioners who would like to speak on this item? Just have a couple questions. First question is, how much is an annual business license?
It depends by the business.
Well, because it's on page 5.7, it says, trades and services with boundaries are proposed with business districts shall pay the amount equal of their annual business license fee. And so when you're talking about cups of coffee a day, I'm just curious, how does that equate from?
Well, so for example, like there's different scales of how much a person makes. It's between those. Just like our taxes. So, for instance, if a person makes over $1 million a year like McDonald's, I think that the highest amount a bid goes is around $3,000. We actually have a breakdown of that whole tax fee amount. So smaller businesses are paying less, and businesses like Northgate or McDonald's are paying a little bit more. But there's actual categorized amounts.
Chair Santana, is your question about business license fees or about the assessment?
Both.
Okay, so the business license fee, it depends on the business and then the revenue that each business brings in.
Broke it down from professional trade to commercial to
and
hotels.
The assessment fees are broken down by percentage. So you multiply, so let's say somebody pays $100 for their business license, then there's 3 brackets. It's 1.5 times their business fee, if it's like a retail restaurant, or it's one time the business fee, if it's the second category, or it's 0.25 times their business license.
That'd be nice to have here in the report to make it more clear for
We can
us.
follow up with you with the diagram for sure.
Great. I have a couple more questions and I'll take it back to you. Second one is so on 5.2, it says, back it up, on business improvements. I understand that the downtown is facing some challenges with our, homeless population as well as construction that's going on, but as far as enhancing maintenance of the downtown shopping corridors, can you expand on that? What do you mean by what kind of maintenance do you guys offer besides the flowers that we saw as a big flowers, by the way?
Yeah. So if I can answer that. So for the maintenance and expanding that, power washing is a pretty costly item, and it's a daily or a weekly item within 8 blocks. So that's one example of expanding maintenance. The other component for maintenance is beautification.
Mm-hmm.
So banners, plants, bringing in decorations. For example, in our light posts, we used to hang regularly on holidays flags that would represent that holiday. And so that's the sort of scale that
Going back to what Mr. Perez said, is it's just not really clearly outlined or defined. So for us, I understand that power washing is essential, especially if folks are defecating, urinating, or spill coffee, you want to keep clean sidewalks, right? But then you can say that you spend all your money on power washing and not hanging banners and flowers. So it'd be nice to see some cleanup language on that. It would be great.
And just to differentiate, I wanted to make sure that you know that this bid assessment is funds that businesses or a fee that they self-impose on themselves, and that generates
and I've
the 200.
spoken to those businesses in the downtown, and some of them feel that they haven't had the same, how can I say this nicely?
Equitable.
Exactly.
I've
Because
heard
they're
the same.
on the corner or the edge of the town. They're just, and there's maybe not much foot traffic, but again, I know those are challenges that the Downtown Inc. has to come up with to help resolve. But I kind of went around town. I'm part of the downtown, actually, my office, and so I was just asking some of the local businesses, and that was their concern. And so I'm just echoing their feedback.
I've heard the same. I just wanted to differentiate that these funds handle activation, events, consulting, and then the two business, and then separately, we take to council an agreement for clean and safe. Wanted to give you that discrepancy, but I've also heard the same, as some business owners are really engaged and at the table and at the board meetings, and they know what the latest information is. And then there's other business owners that aren't as connected, and so that's where we can step up.
Well, I
and
think
make
that
the biggest
collaborative
difference.
process. I have a question. Can we give them more money?
Just for a clarification on how this works, this is actually a special assessment on the businesses. And so that formula is already kind of created. It's that 1.5 times the business license that was being discussed. And so the businesses will actually vote to have this assessment placed on them. And so those amounts are already set in that vote. The city, however, does contribute additional funds to these groups through, I think there's some parking funds that go their way. And so there is some additional funding that they get, and that's always being looked at, by the city if there's additional funding that we can put into the city. But for this particular process, it's set through the special assessment for the businesses.
How long has that been set?
2000, what was it? It was
15?
13.
2013.
And I just
And the reason I asked that question, I mean, we just voted a year ago to raise taxes. And I'm going back to, I'm going to be honest, I have issues when I hear, well, this is what it is. I'm like, okay, I know what it is, but if they need additional funds, they're doing some great work. And I think we all know the great work you're doing, but we're also hearing some gaps, and those gaps need additional funds. They need additional resources, so know that we support you. I support you 100%. And if there needs additional funds, there's a process. And I think educating ourselves on what that process might look like for some additional funds because, I would say overall, I'm hearing a lot of beautiful and wonderful things. I've had a couple individuals talk about that equity. Like, hey, I haven't heard from someone in a while. I'm like, okay, well, do you go to the meetings? Well, no, I haven't. I'm like, okay, well, it goes two ways, guys. But I think as money is, in a sense, contributed to you, it's good for you to go out and make those rounds where you're checking in with all the business owners and being collaborative, So I think those processes are key. And I'm a local resident and I've seen a lot of beautiful things happening downtown, which is great. But those are just some areas of concern that we just want that equitable services across the board.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. I just have one last question, and sorry, because I love the downtown.
So do we.
Exactly. We should all support local businesses. It's my big thing. Does either Downtown Inc. or run back here, Santa Business Council, do you guys make profit, or do you guys have?
You know what? That one of the things we noticed, especially since there was a deficit in the city, is we just opened up. It's really hard. We're not a 501c3, we're a 501c6. So even to fundraise has been difficult. We have to work with other organizations all the time to be able to do that. And we have been able to do a little bit of fundraising starting last year when the deficit and all that came through. So we've been working on ways to do fundraising, to do other things, and to open that up, work with other organizations like 10C, so that we can bring in other funds.
You do bring in
Yes.
other funds?
Yeah, we just started. We got our first grant of $25,000 last year to help with Boca de Oro.
Right.
That was amazing. And we're continuing to work on that because we knew that while we've been partnering with the city and they've been amazing, we don't know if that money will always be there, and we've seen that.
Okay, because it shows that, whatever money you did not use or spend, it gets rolled over to the next calendar year. Is that correct?
Another thing is, we found, there's been times, and I don't know if Jose Romo can speak to that. Maybe you can tell them about how.
Well,
Sorry, man.
Just give you a little bit of history, at least for the last 3 years or so. Just like Julie Castro explained, we also have another source of funding that comes from the city. Well, to be specific, from the parking revenue. We also receive $100,000 from the parking revenue. And I want to make it very clear, this is not from the business licenses. But that revenue started 2 years ago. 2020 will be year number 3. If we go back 3 years ago, we ended the year in a deficit. There were about 3 or 4 instances in which the president of the association had to lend money to Downtown Inc. for Downtown Inc. to continue with our walk. Okay, so it was really hard to do so much programming that we do just with $100,000 in 1 year. Like I said, this is the second year that we had additional funding, and we just gave the financial report at our board meeting this morning, and we might end up with a couple $100 in the bank December 31st. So we use all the money that we have. And of course, you're absolutely right, we need more money.
Thank you, Mr. Romo. Last question, last question, because I want to not drag this out more. But
You said last 3 times,
yeah.
Albert.
The last question is there any residents that sit on the board, being that the Artist Village is right across the street from Broadway? Do we have someone on the table as a voice? Because I understand that, bringing in all this entertainment, all this traction, we still have people who live approximately close to the downtown. So it's yes. Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, Ms. Agua and I would like a copy of the slide, if you can please share it with our recording secretary. Ms. Agua and I found a photo of herself there somewhere.
Okay, so you guys have it on your computer right now, so she has her disc and she'll just put it on there. Will you please? Yeah.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak on this matter? If you you may fill out a request and speak form with the recording secretary. You have 3 minutes to speak. Also, we will be accepting any additional requests to speak cards once we begin public comment session. If you haven't already done so, please give your form to the recording secretary. Mr. Recording Secretary, do we have any speaking cards? No? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion.
Chair Santana, I have a question of staff.
Sure. So let's bring it back to you, Mr.
Mike
Mr. Tardif.
Tardif, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess I'm not really clear on what we're being asked to do, to approve, as compared to the background, the information that you had given me on the previous answer. It says that the Community Redevelopment and Housing Commission is responsible for making recommendations to the City Council on the expenditure of revenues derived from the levy of assessments on the classification of businesses as applicable and on the method and basis of levying the assessments, including the annual budget. I haven't seen any budget. Is that really necessary for us as a commission to see that? Do we have any fiduciary responsibility to review that budget and approve it? I haven't seen that, any information in that regard.
So just to clarify the whole process for you, so this is the first step in the process, and so the Redevelopment and Housing Commission is reviewing the report that the Downtown Inc. and Santa Ana Business Council have put together, giving a recap of the events that they provided last year, and also providing some information on the events that will be coming up in the next year and how they will be spending that assessment money that will be coming in. And so this commission kind of looks over that report, and if everything looks good to you and you think that that's the best way for the money to be spent, then you would recommend it to move on to City Council. Currently, it's scheduled to go before City Council at the first meeting in November, where the City Council will take action to set the matter for a public hearing at the first meeting in December. At that first meeting in December, the business owners will have an opportunity to vote on the assessment, and if they have enough votes to approve it, the assessment will go into place. And then that money will be collected from the businesses to basically put into action all of the items that they're talking about in the report. So in terms of the budget that you were asking about, it's actually attached on page 5-8 and 5-9. That is the proposed bid budget for the two different groups for 2020. So the first page, 5-8, is the Downtown Inc. budget, and then the flip side of that is the Santa Ana Business Council budget for 2020.
Okay, but that's just the $100,000 that the city gives out of the parking funds. They spend a lot more money than that.
No, that's the, so 5-8 is the Downtown Inc. bid budget for 2020 with the $100,000 that they would receive through the assessment. Yeah. And then 5-9 is the bid budget for Santa Ana Business Council, and right, the $100,000 that they would receive through the business assessment.
So that's all that we're responsible for, is what we see here. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Not the entire budget for both organizations, because they get a lot more money in, and they spend those for the events, and they do a great job. I think they're both wonderful. But right, I just wanted to know what we're responsible for. So thank you.
Actually, I have a question.
Please.
And it goes back to what Mr. Hodges said. When you said that basically we're looking at this to say how the funds were spent, what's the itinerary on the table for next year, and if that's okay with us. I'm cool with that, but I don't know how that works with California Streets and Highway Code 36533. I don't even know what that is. So how am I, because your recommendation is to state that the Improvement District Assessment Report complies with that. I couldn't tell you that right now because I don't know.
So we're just going to make an assumption. It's been funded since 2013. So legality, the city makes sure those are coherent. So we didn't get a copy, which we didn't, but these are funds that have been established since 2013-3, and they're continuous. So they wouldn't be brought in approval until it's been embedded through the city staff beforehand.
And also, we would not be asking you to make any kind of legal interpretation. So that's why we don't put the code sections in, and that's that's on me, on my side, to make those legal interpretations. So if there was any question on that front, it wouldn't be coming before you. So this is more to kind of look at those items and kind of make that determination that those are things you want to see happen in the downtown, not to make a legal interpretation.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Do we have a motion to approve item number 5, downtown Santa
I move to
Business
approve.
Improvement to District 2020 Assessment Report and Budget? Can I get, can you who's the motion? Mr. Perez?
And I say that.
Second by Ms. Aguinaga. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to work study session. We have a work study session. Please note that there will be no motion or action taken for this item. The item on the work study session calendar is a Community Redevelopment and Housing Commissioner powers, duties, responsibilities, training. Mr. Ryan Hodge, the floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, good evening, commissioners. I'm here to give you a presentation on the powers, duties, and responsibilities as CRHC commissioners. Most importantly, we're talking about the authorities and duties under the commission, which are laid out in our Santa Ana Municipal Code. I'm also going to go over some of the meeting requirements that are laid out in the Brown Act, which is state code requirements. Also going to discuss some legal and ethical considerations that pop up from time to time when reviewing these items, and then also discuss implementing best practices as commissioners. It's important to remember that you have a higher profile as a commissioner, that you are recommending policy to our city council, who then makes the policy, and that the council needs your vital input on a lot of these items. Even if they don't necessarily agree with you all the time, it's very important to hear from you and what your recommendations are. So starting right off, the Santa Ana Municipal Code Section 2-621 lays out the powers and duties of this commission. Now this is an interesting commission in that it has kind of a dual purpose. For the first purpose of it is to serve as a community redevelopment commission pursuant to Health and Safety Code Sections 33201 and 202. Now, a lot of what would fall under this previously came from redevelopment. And as we know, redevelopment technically does not exist anymore. However, there is still, and these code sections still exist under redevelopment law. So while there's technically not redevelopment agencies anymore, there are still duties for redevelopment commissions such as this to review. The last item we just had is a prime example of one of the redevelopment commission aspects of this commission. Apologize if you guys couldn't hear me. Usually people have no problem, but it's a good idea. I know we have some people in the audience too. So the second purpose of the Redevelopment Housing Commission is the housing aspect. So under Health and Safety Codes 34291 and 292, the CRHC is supposed to act to review and make recommendations on matters that would go before our housing authority, except for any emergency matters or matters that are excluded by housing authority resolution. The Housing Authority for the City of Santa Ana is actually the City Council. They serve as the Housing Authority as well. So you will see those items that go to City Council, but technically there's a second agenda at City Council at some meetings, which is our Housing Authority agenda. Those are all those housing matters, the affordable housing projects that we see that come before the Commission. So the CRHC members, again, another unique aspect of this commission is that typically we see 7 members on our commissions. And so section 2-621 establishes that traditional 7-member commission for those redevelopment actions. And those are appointed, each seat is appointed by a different council member at City Council. However, we also have Section 2-626, which appoints 2 additional tenant commissioners for our housing actions. That includes 1 senior tenant, which is currently vacant right now. But those 2 additional commissioners serve as part of the CRHC in the capacity of any housing items. So the affordable housing projects or anything that involves any kind of money being used for housing, affordable housing, those items. Then we also have a student commissioner, which is also a great addition to the commission. That is a non-voting member. However, the student commissioner is encouraged to participate in all of the discussions and voice opinions on all of the items that come before the commission. So the next few items here are specific code sections that kind of talk about special interest, property interests of the specific commissioners. According to 624, commissioner members are prohibited from acquiring interests in properties included within project areas. That specific language kind of harkens back more to our redevelopment agency days when there were certain project areas or zones that were created that could get some specific additional funding for redevelopment. And so commissioners were kind of prohibited from acquiring any kind of the property that was kind of outlined in those zones. However, kind of extrapolating from that, there's still that same requirement that commissioners aren't really allowed to have a property interest in any of the items that might come before the commission. So if there's an affordable housing project that might be built on a property that one of the housing commission or one of the commissioners has an interest in, that would be a violation, and the commissioner would have to step down on that item.
If I may ask Ryan, could we go to the previous slide too? The next one, the previous one.
Certainly.
That's this slide is an important one for Commissioner Frazier, as well as our senior tenant commissioner seat that's now vacant. It's a question that comes up often, and so when votes are recorded, you'll see that the votes are recorded officially for non-housing items by Bianca in the minutes, and Commissioner Frazier's vote and our senior tenant commissioner's vote is not counted in that official vote. But it's a question that comes up frequently, right? It's always, is this a housing related item? And
it is, and I think that these 2 municipal codes are the only place that I've ever seen the tenant commissioner mention I've done some big here. And I'd still like to look copy of our bylaws.
I did send that to you, yes, sir. Sure. And Commissioner Sanchez, this goes back to our original orientation with you and everything, where you were, your input and feedback on behalf of all students in Santa Ana is extremely important. But even though you're a non-voting member, your voice is extremely important to advise your fellow commissioners, even though you're non-voting.
Quick question for point of clarification, and I think in some aspects there should be a mechanism where Commissioner Frazier knows if it's a voting or not voting, and I think that's what times triggers. So is there a mechanism where, or a conversation, or on his agenda, he has something to allow him that opportunity to know? Because I think, we're always looking for his opinion. We're always looking to hear what he has to say and that process. But I know there's times where we're still confused, like, well, is this housing, is this not? And I think from a legal perspective, I think you're going to know before the meeting starts which ones are housing, which ones are not. And I think it just would provide a sense of clarity for Commissioner Frazier, so, in a sense, like, okay, this is something that I necessarily am not going to vote on, instead of having that conversation and going, wait a minute, am I voting on this?
I think administratively, it's something that staff could do, right? We could, on items, we could put, housing, in parentheses, or housing related in parentheses, or something like that, so it's very clear. On the flip side of that, though, the negative impact of that is that if it's very explicit, then Commissioner Frazier may not feel comfortable commenting on non-housing items, even though he's not able to vote on that item. And so there is that flip side of that, which we value Commissioner Frazier's input as a commissioner, and we don't, we're not always saying, oh, this is not a housing item, you can't ask any questions. We want,
absolutely.
We don't really.
What would you like?
And not to cut you off, but yeah, I'd like to weigh in.
What would you like?
On one hand, you're right. It would be helpful to know things because there are a lot of issues that kind of get really, really close to the gray area of the line. And I'm not clear a lot of times on what those items may be, if I can vote on them, if I don't. There's half the time that I'm not really sure where my vote has counted, but this clarifies it to a degree. I think that'll get better with experience, but I mean, I'll take any type of help that I can get in those avenues, rather than having it affect the flow of the meeting, which it has over the last 3 years, sometimes substantially, sometimes not so much.
Mr. Hodge, a quick question. So this is a Santa Ana municipal code, right? So this could be changed in the council, or is this through HUD regulation that is voted?
So for the tenant commissioners?
Correct.
So it's actually, it is listed in our municipal code, but it comes from state law. So in terms of if you're saying to expand the use of the tenant commissioner to apply to everything that would come before the commissioner, it's actually supposed to, the purpose of it is to give a voice to the tenants who may be using some of the funds that could come through. So it really is designed to be specific to the housing items. It would be, it's always a conversation to be had if you want to try to expand the role or expand the number of commissioners or whatnot, but it would be difficult to try to make it a 9-member commission for all matters, just because all of our other commissions citywide have 7 members, and it lines up with the appointments from city council members. So really the intention of the tenant commissioners being added is because that is provided for through state law.
Thank you.
I mean, the only other thing that I could think of is that if there's ever an agenda that does not include a housing item, then Bianca can, or somebody can pass that on to me, and that's just a meeting that, but then we run into attendance questions. So it's definitely a conversation I want to have. I'm just not really sure.
No, this is great input, and I think that's something we can certainly work on to do a better job of clarifying ahead of time, the different items and which ones would be related to the redevelopment aspect of the commission, which ones would be related to the housing aspect of the commission. Let me get back to, okay. So moving on into the prohibited interests of the commissioners, section 2-627 talks about the commission members not being able to have any direct or indirect interest in any housing project, any contract for materials or services for a housing project. If any such interest exists, there should be immediate written disclosure to the housing authority. Essentially, this goes into those, if you have any kind of financial benefit or financial interest in any of the items that come forward, you need to let us know ahead of time so that, we can give you some guidance on that. And, if you have a direct financial interest, it would most likely be that you would need to recuse yourself from participating in that item. Then also, in addition to the municipal code, we have our bylaws for the commission, which essentially lay out the rules for these meetings and for the commission as a whole. The main categories of the bylaws are, Article 1 talks about the commission, Article 2 talks about our elections, Article 3 gets into the meetings, and Article 4 is the conduct at the meetings about calling for motions and whatnot. Now, an important item to remember here is that as redevelopment and housing commissioners, you are public officials. You do remain an individual with all of your rights, of course, to freedom of speech and whatnot, but you are public officials representing the city. Not necessarily your own personal views, but what is best for the city. And so when obviously your own personal history comes into your opinions on those items, but we are making recommendations up to the city council for what is best in the best interest of the city. In terms of commissioner communication, I haven't heard one complaint at all from this commission about communication. You guys do an excellent job of communicating with staff, but just in case anyone is hesitant, please feel free to reach out to staff if you ever do have questions on items. Preferably before the meeting, so if there's any issues, you can let us know ahead of time. We can look at it and make sure we have the answer for you by the time of the meeting. But during the meeting, after the meeting, anytime, feel free to contact us, email, call us, whatever works best. Also, in terms of during the meetings, your communication with each other, again, you guys do an excellent job of this, but make sure it's just one person speaking at a time. Make sure to give everyone their opportunity to speak. Kind of go down, let everyone speak once, go back if anyone wants to follow up. Your chair does a great job of kind of handling all of that. So there's not real issues with this commission on that front. And then also just during the meetings, it's best to kind of refrain from any side discussions. The whole purpose of being here in this forum is so that anything we have to say, everyone out here gets to hear it. So if there's any kind of discussions on the side, we want to make sure that everyone has an understanding of where your thoughts are or what you're thinking. And so it's best to, wait for your turn to speak to everyone. Relationship with staff, again, you guys do an excellent job with this, but one area where sometimes confusion comes up is the commissioners will kind of ask staff to do certain things or certain items, but please do respect that staff does kind of report up to the city manager. She gives us our direction in terms of what items may be brought forward or what will go to city council. So sometimes in certain commissions you'll get the commissioners saying, hey, we want this kind of ordinance or this kind of item coming forward, and it's kind of the reverse of the way this works. It's supposed to, we get our direction from the city manager, who will get direction from city council about what items will come forward, and then we will bring them to you for your analysis. Let's see. If you do have such items, or you feel like you're not quite getting, a response from staff that you want, or you want us to bring you something, but we're kind of not able to because we haven't gotten that direction from our directors or from the city manager, our recommendation is to kind of report that back to your city council member and say, hey, I have this great idea, and then it kind of can go up the chain that direction. And then, your city council member, if they're interested in that, can then, kind of recommend that back to the city manager, and it'll flow down to staff to work on that. Yes?
How does that change for me, since I wasn't appointed by it?
Yes, that's true. You don't have a specific city manager to report to. I would say if you do have a question or a city council member to report to, you can go to the city council member in your ward if you'd like. You can always try to schedule a meeting directly with the city manager if you like. Hopefully this doesn't come up. We try the best we can as staff to kind of answer your questions and get you the things that you need. But if you are having issues, or even if there's something might be outside the scope of the commission, I'd say just kind of go discuss that with your city council member in your ward.
If I may too provide a very practical experience of how this worked really well. One of our former commissioners, Commissioner Ramos, she was very interested in directing staff to create a tenant-based rental assistance program, and she wanted to expand rental assistance opportunities for families in our community. And she, I think at one meeting she attempted to agendize it, and we told her, you can't do that. in another meeting, she attempted to amend an item, and it didn't fit. But through her work with her council member who appointed her, the council member who appointed her listened to her feedback, and then in the annual budget for this fiscal year, requested to amend the annual budget to allocate $100,000 for rental assistance. And that then turned into what we launched just this past week, which I'll talk about later, the Safely Home in Santa Ana program, for an eviction prevention program for families who are at risk of eviction. So it was a very it's a very good textbook example of working through your council member to then direct a change that you want to see, that you're personally very passionate about and want to see for our community.
That's a great example. Thank you. So also, I've touched on this before, but just to hammer the point home again, your relationship with the Commission's relationship to City Council is that this is a recommending body, advisory, meaning that you recommend the items to City Council. City Council has the final say on the item. So, they may take what you say and they may love it and approve it. They may tweak it and change it. We see that sometimes in the CDBG allocations. They may tweak that and change it. It doesn't mean that they don't approve of the work you're doing or anything like that, but they have final say on those items at the end of the day.
Question, may I?
Yes.
What is the process of this commission, or any commission, to recommend a policy to the council? Do we pass a resolution? How is that done?
It really depends on what you're looking to recommend. Really, if it's something that hasn't been brought to you, that kind of in Judson's example there, where we had a commissioner who wanted to bring up a new item and bring up a new program, she went and worked through her city council member, kind of did it on her own, but certainly, if you can get a couple of you doing the same thing, you don't want to get too many together, or else then, we'll get into this in a bit, you might have some Brown Act violations, but individually, if you go work directly with your council member to talk about those programs, then the direction will come to staff kind of from above, from city council to city manager down to staff, that we can put that together and present.
But that really doesn't answer my question. It says the commission may recommend policy. How does the commission recommend policy?
Oh, I think what is meant there is that when an item comes before you, let's take this item previously in this meeting. Policy might not be the right word, but basically that item came before the commission for review and analysis. You guys took a look at it, looked at the report that was provided, and you're making a recommendation that, yes, this is the type of program that we think will benefit the downtown, and so we're going to recommend that the city council approve this and move forward with it. So that's what's meant by policy in this respect, is that you're moving the policy of the downtown bid onto city council.
So we can't necessarily come up with a policy on our own. There's no way to do that.
In order to do that, it needs to be an agendized item.
Right.
And so to get items onto the
agenda. So it is possible.
It's possible, but staff controls the agenda.
Well, not necessarily. It's the commission's agenda. It's not staff's agenda.
Well, we might have to agree to disagree on that one, because the agenda is put together by staff. These are items that are prepared by staff and brought to the commission for their review.
We do disagree. Thank you.
So moving into kind of a newer area that the law hasn't really kept up very well with, but social media. This is, I'm sure many of you have social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be, and they're great platforms to be able to get out and speak with the community and get programs out there and get ideas out there. What we just want you to remember is that as a commissioner, if you are to put something out there about city business, about something that you've worked on here on the commission, that you are acting as a city representative representative essentially when you post that. And so, we have kind of the city has an interest and expectation that, that message will be positive and that you will, stay, within what is presented here at the commission. You are personally responsible for all that information, but again, it's, there's a couple different hats there. You can be putting on your commissioner hat when you're, using your social media. It's not just your personal hat at that time. So you might say, oh, I posted something about this item and, either for or against it, but that was just my own personal thoughts. No, as a commissioner, you're now representing yourself as a commissioner on social media, so you have to remember that. Let's see, this is kind of already went through all this. Again, the issues are raised. There's First Amendment issues, but there's also Public Record Act and Brown Act concerns. If somebody were to ask for public records on, anything that the commissioner kind of wrote about a particular item, your social media might be implicated in all that, and that would become a public record potentially. All right, so getting more into the technical nuts and bolts of the meeting and getting into the Brown Act here. So a meeting is defined as a gathering of a majority of the members to hear or discuss any item of city business or potential city business. This right here is the meeting because we have a quorum of the commissioners present to discuss the items. It requires notice, which you all receive and goes out the week prior to the meeting. The agenda, which is our kind of script of how we will go through and review these items. And then it also includes the time for public comment for the public to come and address both the items on the agenda as well as non-agendized items. Unless the gathering falls into certain Brown Act exceptions, it will be considered a meeting subject to the Act. So then we have to follow all the Brown Act rules. Meetings subject to the Brown Act are not just these face-to-face meetings. You can also have, phone communications, or if you're emailing, all of the commissioners and you guys start emailing each other back and forth, that can fall within the definition of a meeting. It's basically any time where a majority of the commissioners kind of get together to discuss items or to provide their input on it. Meetings, again, through the Brown Act are intended to be open and public, so we have to avoid any of those phone conversations with multiple commissioners or any of the emails going back and forth with multiple commissioners. Now, one of the exceptions are ad hoc committees. I don't believe we have any ad hoc committees right now. I don't think.
No, we do.
Oh, we do? Okay. Oh, that's right. Our CDBG ad hoc committee. So that is one of the exceptions to the Brown Act rules of a meeting. Ad hoc committees, because they are less than a quorum, they're defined for a particular purpose and they are only temporary. They are an exemption from Brown Act rules, meaning you don't have to notice those meetings, don't have to provide an agenda. Just those limited commissioners can get together to discuss that item. There's also standing committees. Those actually do need to follow the Brown Act, though, because standing committees, we don't have any standing committees with this commission, though, but just standing committees will be a smaller, a less than quorum group that will get together, but they will be kind of general topics that don't have an end date. So like on city council, they have council commissions. There's the economic development, and it's a long acronym. There's 3 council members on that. That would be a standing committee because it's in place and goes forward. So they still have to follow the Brown Act when they get together for meetings. So getting into what I mentioned before about those individual contacts. The Brown Act will not apply to individual contacts between a member of the body and any other person. However, individual contacts can rise to the level of a meeting if you start talking to several other commissioners. This becomes known as a serial meeting. There's 2 ways that works. We've already gone through that. The serial meeting either a daisy chain or a hub and spoke. Essentially, the daisy chain would be Commissioner Calderon talks to Commissioner Frazier, who talks to Commissioner Perez, and they each kind of tell each other, oh, here's my thoughts, here was his thoughts, and it just gets passed along to where all of a sudden you have a quorum of or majority of the commissioners who know what the other commissioners are thinking on an item. And all of a sudden, you've got a meeting for Brown Act purposes, and it's a violation of the Brown Act. The hub and spoke would be if Commissioner Perez contacts Commissioner Frazier, and then contacts Commissioner Aguinaga, and contacts Commissioner Santana, and he knows, what everyone else is thinking on something. You've got a majority of commissioners who then, again, have kind of communicated on a topic outside of, a notice meeting. That could be a violation as well. So basically, long story short on that one, the best way to avoid all that is to just not communicate with each other on items that will be coming before the commission on a notice meeting. Just to clarify on that, though.
So does that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Even if we don't talk about anything about the commission, I mean,
You're playing with you. You can call me once you want. Nothing on agenda items.
Thank you for the clarification. It's just in regards to items that will be coming before the commission. So any business items that you can call to talk about the weather or whatever else you want to talk about with each other. That's fine.
Thank you.
Yes.
So does that mean that, say, John Q. Public could come and talk to each individual one of us about the same topic, and it doesn't? How does that?
Right. They are allowed to do that. They are, and you'll see that. Developers on project may come and want to have meetings with the commissioners. What we recommend, though, is that they should not be telling you what other commissioners have their thoughts on it. So if that starts happening, maybe stop a meeting. Tell them, I can't hear, what other commissioners are thinking. Usually what those meetings should be, though, is more about a developer kind of presenting something to you if you want to take that meeting, and you certainly don't have to take those meetings, but just more listening. Just say, I'm taking the information in, thank you for providing that. I'll provide my thoughts, when the item is before the whole commission at a notice meeting. So let's see. Other Brown Act exceptions, seminars and conferences that are open to the public or of general interest. You can have a majority of all of you that could show up at that. Community meetings that are open, publicized, you can all show up. Meetings of other legislative bodies, like if you all went to city council. Any social ceremonial occasions. I know a lot of times we'll have, ribbon cuttings or, other kinds of community presentations. The big caveat to all that is, although you may all be able to show up at one place, you're still not allowed to talk about those business items together. Once you start those communications, then it becomes a meeting for Brown Act purposes. So getting into just the format of the meetings, and I'll race through this pretty quickly because you guys do a great job with this and what's going on. But pretty much, when we get to an item, right off the bat, the chair will announce the agenda item, state the subject matter. The chair then invites a presentation from staff to report on the item, and including the recommendation for action by the commission. The chair will then ask the commissioners if they have any questions on the item or need any clarification from staff. Then the chair will invite public comment on the item if there is any. Public comment, we do have this note here, public comment may be limited 3 minutes, and you'll hear that in the speech. Really that's not necessarily a requirement. If somebody really wants to get up and take longer than that, at the permission of the chair, it certainly can go longer than that if it's helpful and beneficial to the commission. Then the chair will invite a motion on the item from the commission, recommendation, denial, whatever it may be. And then there will be a request for a second on the motion. And then once you have a motion and a second, then the chair will repeat the motion, ask the secretary to repeat it if necessary. Then there will be discussion on that motion, where the commissioners will be able to give their thoughts and ideas, and what's a good idea, bad idea, whatever it may be. And then at the end, there will be a vote on the item, yes, no, or abstain. Abstain is really reserved for if you have any kind of conflict with the item, and really what should happen prior to sitting through the item, you should recuse yourself from the item so you don't participate at all. So really, if you've participated in the item, it should be a yes or a no. And then the chair announces the result of the vote and that the commission has taken. Now here's some more technical items that the commission can do. If a motion is made and after discussion you start to think, wait a minute, maybe we want to amend this motion or do something different, a commissioner can make a motion to amend. So a member may amend it by saying, I move to amend the motion by, whichever commissioner made it. Then there would need to be a second for that amended motion. It can then be debated and discussed just like the original motion, and then there will be a vote on that amended motion prior to taking a vote on the original motion. If the amended motion passes, that's it. That's the motion of the commission. If it does not pass, then it would go back to the original motion that was on the floor. Then we can also reconsider motions. So if you have the vote, it's approved, then after the fact some new information comes up, somebody changes their mind for some reason, anyone who voted in favor of that item and was on the side who approved the motion can put forward a motion to reconsider the item. I know this has come up at City Council a couple times. You've seen it. It doesn't happen too much at our commission. I don't know if we've ever had it, but it's just something that can be done. It's another tool for you guys. And basically it needs to be that something happened, some new information, or for some reason, there's a change in opinion, and then you take a motion on whether or not to reconsider it, and then if that passes, then you kind of start the debate over again. Public participation, Brown Act requires two types of public comment periods. There's the public comments during the actual item, so they can make comments on the agendas and agendized items, and then at the end of the meeting, after all of the agenda items, there will be an open public comment period for the public to make comments on any non-agendized items as well. Not sure if that was me or what that was.
Time's up.
All right. Enjoy. We're almost done, I promise. Even the computer is getting mad at me. So let's see, discussion on non-agendized items. I know this does come up from time to time at the end of meetings when we're going through. Judson may have some updates on items. Essentially, the basic rule is that if it's not on the agenda, we can't have discussions on that item. We might be able to give a brief update. We can answer a quick question on it to provide some clarification, but that's as far as it can go. If it's not on the agenda, we can't have that back and forth debate or discussion.
Clarifying question on that. Sometimes in the updates, they bring conversations. So should we ask them for, if we want a detailed description or discussion, ask for it to be agendized for the next meeting?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's the best way. If there is something you're thinking, oh wait, we need to have a discussion on that, we just can't do it until it's agendized, so a request to put that on a future agenda is the best approach.
Thank you.
Yeah, does that request to have that put on the agenda have to go back up to the city manager and come back down?
No, depending on what the item is, if it's something that staff is kind of giving an update on the status of something, then I would make that request back, right then and there. To if it's Judson giving an update, ask him if that's something that could be brought back on a future agenda.
But if it's something that we get into a discussion up here and we say, okay, we can't talk about that, we have to do that later.
Right.
And we want to agendize it.
Right.
Is that something for our discussion that we can agendize, or does that have to go for prior approval?
I would start by making the request here to staff, and if it's something that can be accommodated and we can get it on the agenda, we would do that. If it's something that is, we can't put that back on the agenda, we'll let you know and say, that's not really something we can do. And then that, you might have to go take that, different approach with that. All right, courtesy and decorum, this is standard stuff. You guys know it and do a great job with it. One person speaks at a time. Chair will recognize who gets to speak. Discussion should focus on the agenda item, not any other commissioners. And the chair does have the right to cut off any discussion that may get too personal, too loud, too rude. Again, not anything that's ever been remotely an issue in this commission. Maintaining civility. Again, we just ask that everyone, keep focused on the agenda items and keep it cordial, and we're all here for the same goal. So, some brief pointers. Don't engage in that two-way dialogue with anyone in the audience. If somebody comes up and has starts public comment and they start being aggressive or anything, you don't need to respond or engage with them. We ask that you prepare in advance of the meeting. Again, you guys do a great job of reading through your agenda packets ahead of time. You come with great questions. That's really helpful for the meeting. And if you do have any specific questions ahead of time, please reach out to myself, Bianca, Judson, with any questions you may have. And then, thank you. Enjoy everything here, and let me know if you have any questions at any time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
You got a fan base behind you, sir.
That's great.
All right, we're moving on to public comments. Does the public have any comments they wish to share with the commission? Please know that you have 3 minutes to speak. Madam Recording Secretary, do we have any public comments? Seeing none. Staff comments. Would staff?
I think you have one public comment.
Oh. Hi. I think
Can you
there's
fill
a
out the-
card right there to your left.
You could do it afterwards.
After we have-
Okay.
Yeah.
So would I, should I address you guys?
Please do.
Yes, go ahead.
Welcome.
So I'm new to the area, and this is my first meeting. This is my first meeting. I'm new to the area. So I had one question for you guys. Why doesn't the city of Santa Ana have a newsletter?
We're not allowed to answer questions, ma'am, but we will take on your answer. Maybe city staff can, Ryan can help with her question.
So, quick response: the official city's correspondence comes through our Nixles. If you go to our website and you just search for Nixle, N-I-X-L-E,
Okay.
that's the easiest way to get all the press releases and updates from the city, official press releases and updates from the city, that is the closest thing that we have to a newsletter. There is also an insert that we'll input into our utility bills for our residents once a year, and that's the second thing that's most closely related to a newsletter. And your individual council members, whoever's ward you're in, your council member district you're in, your council member may also have a newsletter that they send to their constituents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Coming back to staff comments. Would staff have anything you'd like to share with the commission?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple items. I'll try and keep it brief. Following the last meeting in which the CRHC recommended the approval of the revised nonprofit community development block grant application process for fiscal year 2020 through 2022, City Council did approve the action item unanimously, and the item was amended to require the Commission to evaluate and discuss how each organization is achieving their outputs and outcomes during the work study session about the strategic plan. So when we return to have a work study session about the strategic plan, Mr. Chairman, if you want to go back to public comment, I'm okay.
It's okay. So
practice. Yeah.
We'll go back to public comment. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name's Stephen Mai.
Can you just speak into the mic? We can't hear you.
Hello, my name's Stephen Mai. I was here as a project for civics. I was just wanting to ask what is the commission as a whole? Because I understand that from the brief time I was here, the commission makes recommendations to the council. Is that what I believe? And do people just bring their issues to you guys, and you guys advise the council on what to do next? I'm a little confused here.
Thank you, Stephen, for your question. Again, I think I would have city staff report it.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and appreciate your studying the local government. This commission is our Community Redevelopment and Housing Commission, and so the commission oversees most all of the community development activities for the city of Santa Ana, as well as the affordable housing development activities for the city. You'll see in the report and the agenda today two really neat and cool items in there. One of them is our Housing Authority quarterly report, and the other is our Housing Division quarterly report. Those are great items to cut and paste from in terms of the various activities that the city is undertaking under the purview of our Housing Commission to provide rental assistance for our community, as well as affordable housing development and affordable housing programs for our community. But appreciate your interest in the commission.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Going back to staff member comments, would you like to start again, Mr.?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So like I said, City Council amended the item to ask that the commission evaluate and discuss how each organization is achieving their outputs and outcomes during the work study session about the strategic plan. So when we come back to provide that work study session in alignment with the strategic plan, we'll make sure that item is included following City Council direction. And then following the approval by City Council of the revised application, following the great work of our ad hoc committee, staff held a successful workshop last Thursday, October 17th, with several nonprofit organizations who will be applying. And we will be releasing the application on November 4th. So really looking forward to a great process this year following the approval by City Council for a 2-year application cycle now for our CDBG program public service funds. We are excited to announce that following the approval by City Council of $125,000 in additional rental assistance funds allocated by City Council in the fiscal year 1920 budget, staff has now launched the Safely Home in Santa Ana program. The program provides $50,000 to the Salvation Army of Orange County and $50,000 to Catholic Charities for eviction prevention assistance. Families who are facing a hardship or crisis, as defined very specifically in the program guidelines, or who have been issued an eviction for non-payment of rent as the only reason, are eligible to receive assistance, one-time assistance through the Salvation Army or Catholic Charities up to the fair market rent value for the size of their unit in which they reside. Staff are, if you add those numbers up, you'll only get $100,000, right? So there's a $25,000 difference. Staff are still working on launching a mobile home rental assistance program, which we expect to launch in the next 2 weeks. An update on our RFP for affordable housing development that the Commission approved to release in May and then went to City Council in June. The first deadline for the RFP was October 15th. We received a total of 4 proposals. Staff are in the process of conducting a minimum threshold review of those proposals and then scheduling an interview of the developers who submitted a proposal and then a review panel will be formed to interview those developers, and then subsequently staff hope to make a recommendation for a project award in the next couple months. So that'll be a very big item. $4.2 million was made available in that RFP, as well as a land asset held by the Housing Authority. And so we do expect to bring back an item regarding that RFP in the next couple months. I won't go over the updates on our major multifamily affordable housing development projects. Those were provided to you in the Housing Division quarterly report. You do have progress being made on each project, and we have 11 projects in total in various phases of development. And lastly, two other things. I hope everybody received our Housing Authority Story of Success for September for Ms. Myra Martinez. Very encouraging story of her using our assistance as a platform to improve her life and achieve self-sufficiency with our assistance through our self-sufficiency program. We do have 3 graduation packets currently under review for graduates from our self-sufficiency program. We're in the process of trying to schedule that next graduation ceremony in the next couple months. We do invite the commissioners to attend those ceremonies. I think Commissioner Santana and Ramos had attended in the past, and really appreciate your participation and support of those families using our rental assistance to improve their lives. For our November meeting was originally scheduled for the Wednesday immediately before Thanksgiving. We are going to be canceling that regular meeting. I think it's November 26th. 27th is the day. Okay, so the meeting was originally for November 27th as a regular meeting. We'll be canceling that meeting and scheduling a special meeting for Wednesday, November 20th. So if you could mark that date on your calendars, and Bianca will be sending out a notice in the next couple of days regarding that cancellation and rescheduling that meeting to November 20th. And then lastly, Commissioner Perez and Santana, in follow-up to your direction at your comments at the last meeting in September, Terry did email you both on October 7th, giving you the information on how to go on a ride-along with our police department, Heart Team and Colt. And Corporal Velasquez is still waiting to hear from you to make arrangements. His contact information was provided to you in that email. And if you have any additional questions for your ride-along, just let Terry or myself know.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Before I begin commission member comments, just want to let the public know that if you do require parking validation, we do have some up here. Please see our recording secretary. That being said, the commission member, please note that no members may speak more than once until we all have the opportunity to speak. I'm going to start on my left-hand side with Commissioner Ms. Roxana Sanchez. Would you have any comments?
No comments.
No comments. Moving to my right with Mr. Miguel Calderon.
No comments.
No comments. Mr. Vince Frazier.
That was a lot of information, but a lot of good information. Thank you very much. We've asked for it, so that was really good.
Going back to Mr. Let's first go to Mr. Perez, and we'll come back to you.
No comment.
Okay. And Ms. Aguinaga?
I just want to thank the students who are here. This is a great opportunity for you guys to understand the system. And I wish you the best. And remember, stay in the school and follow up your dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguinaga. Back to Mr. Calderon.
Thank you, Commissioner Calderon. We currently don't have the date of that graduation ceremony. We're also trying to figure out what the best time would be, but as soon as we have that date and time, we will send it out to the commission. Yes, sir.
Awesome. I just want to thank city staff for being here today. Are the Saints in the house in the back, right? Santa High School? Nope. Oh boy, Los Amigos, welcome, guys. Want to thank Mr. Ryan Hodge for finding a good candidate, Ms. Marcela Marquez. We look forward to working with her, and thank you for your detailed staff notes. Me and Jim do look forward in doing a ride-along, preferably one of the days that the city actually is going to haul all that trash and just kind of be active. And then I want to thank everyone for being here. Have a great night. This meeting is adjourned. Our next special meeting is scheduled for November 20th at 4:30 p.m. at the council chambers at 22 Civic Center Plaza, Santa